Tsong-kha-pa finds position of wisdom. In our own system, although there is desire, although there is conventionally existent disintegration in this moment, it's not contradiction for formulated to be one continuum. Due to this, memory of life is feasible. Those who do not understand the meaning of the above think that because in the sets of discourse Buddha frequently says, "In the past I became such and such a person," the two persons, the one after enlightenment and the one at an earlier time, are one. Furthermore, they think that it would not be suitable for them to be one if they were compounded phenomena, since they would disintegrate moment by moment, and therefore they say that both are permanent. In this way, the first of the four bad views based on past factors generate in them. To prevent falling into such a view, when Buddha remembered alive, he spoke of remembering in general, saying I, without qualifying either a specific place, time, or nature. We need to understand well this feature of his mode of remembering further lives. The second fallacy of an inherently produced and disintegrating person is that actions done would be wasted. The two, the agent of the action and the experiencer of the effect, could not be included within the single substratum of the mere I. The third fallacy is that one would meet with the effects of actions not done by oneself. This is the greatly absurd consequence that even all the effects of actions accumulated by another person of a different continuum would have to be experienced by the person of this continuum. These two fallacies are incurred by way of essential, as I in the above explanation of the Chandrakirti supplement to Nagarjuna, treatise on the middle, that if a person is established inherently former and later, moments are not suitable to be the same continuum. Nagarjuna's treatise in the middle also says, if the god of an earlier birth and the human of a later birth were others, established by way of their own entities, those two would not be feasible to a single continuum. What follows is there is the self. If the self and the aggregate are said to be inherently established and different, and so there is the false described in Nagarjuna, treatise in the middle. If the self is established as inherently other than the aggregates, the self would not have the characteristics of the aggregates, namely production, abiding, and disintegration. Concerning that, if the self were inherently different from the aggregates, it would not possess the characteristics that characterize the aggregates as compounded phenomena production, abiding, and disintegration. For example, because a horse is established as factually other than an ox, it does not have the characteristics of an ox. If you think that indeed is so, but that is, if you are not entirely convinced, then this so-called self is not feasible as the object of observation that is the basis of disintegration, the convention self, by innate apprehension, because it's uncompounded, like a sky flower or like nirvana. Moreover, if the self exists as inherently different from the characteristics of the aggregate, such as being suitable as form, and so forth, it must be observed that way, just as, for example, form and mind are apprehended as different. Further, since there is no such apprehension, the self does not exist as factually other than the aggregates, Nagarjuna treatise in the middle says. It is just not feasible that the self be another entity from the appropriated aggregates. If it were feasible for the self to be another entity from them, it would be reasonable for the self to be apprehendable by the mind, without the appropriated aggregates, whereas it is not apprehended that way. Also, contrary supplement to Nagarjuna treatise in the middle says, hence there is no self as another factuality, than the aggregates, because an innate mind apprehends itself as another factuality, aside from the aggregates not established. That's it. Tsong-kha-pa, final exposition of wisdom.